So hello again. In this session, I will describe the transformation, digital transformation. So this chapter will focus on understanding digital transformation in the post-pandemic society. So I'd like to stress the two key words, digital transformation and the post-pandemic. So in the process of dealing with the pandemic, digital transformation became a necessity, as you observe in your society. In the post-pandemic society, digital transformation will occur quickly and pervasively in every corner of our lives. Summing up, digital transformation will accelerate, widen, and deepen, as I mentioned in the previous module. So objectives of this course is as follows. I'd like you to understand the basic concept of digital transformation. I guess you're familiar with this concept. And I'd like you to understand the emerging issues caused by COVID-19. The digital transformation is a traditional concept which might be familiar to you. But I'd like you to understand the issues, the digital transformation in the context of COVID-19. And I'd like to understand the implication and effect of COVID-19 on digital transformation and so forth. And also, I'd like you to understand the digital transformation strategy in the post-COVID-19. So simply put, we must understand what digital transformation is and what kind of strategies we need for digital transformation. The structure of this course is basics of digital transformation, and then issues and implications in the post-pandemic era, and also I will explain policy framework and strategy of digital transformation in the post-pandemic era. And we can summarize the digital transformation as accelerating, widening, and deepening as in the previous model. Also, I will explain digital transformation in key sectors like in education and healthcare system and government. Let's move to basics of digital transformation. I will just explain very briefly because I'm sure most of you are familiar with this digital transformation. The definition of digital transformation from perspective of technology determinism is defined as a business activity that enhances a company's competitiveness or pursues new growth while responding to environmental changes triggered by digital technologies such as mobile, cloud, big data. By cloud, I mean cloud computing, and AI, artificial intelligence, and IoT, Internet of Things. In order to solve social problems by utilizing new technologies, the concept of digital government was derived from the government perspective, from the new technologies, new policies, new tools, in order to adapt new digital innovation. Today, many countries, I guess including your country around the world, are pursuing digital government policies or digital policies by newly establishing a ministry that oversees digital innovation. I was wondering if your country has a department dedicated to these digital issues or digital innovations. I guess many countries, in most developed countries, I guess, in terms of digitalization, they have an organization or agency dedicated to digitalization. In Korea, we have a department level organization, and also we have a special professional organizations like NIA, which you might be familiar over many, many years. NIA has contributed to the digitalization and digital government in Korea over many, many years, and which is world famous for many people who are in this ICT or digital arena. And according to the OECD, they provide some definition as follows. Originally, digitization is the conversion of analog data and processes, analog data and analog processes into machine-readable format. That is a digitization. And the next step is digitalization comes. That is the use of digital technologies and data, as well as interconnection that result in new or changes to existing activities. That is digitalization. But finally, digital transformation refers to the economic and societal effects of digitization and digitalization. So today, an ecosystem of interdependent digital technologies underline the digital transformation, and it will evolve to drive future economic and social changes. As follows, in the following session, as you can see, there are action items, 9 items suggested by OECD. I'll explain very briefly because you can go over on your own over here. And action 1, we must make a digital economy vision. In order to do that, we must make the digital economy visible economic statistics. Without data, without statistics, you cannot make a decision. So first, action 1, suggested by OECD for digital transformation is make the digital economy visible in economic statistics. And action 2 is understand the impact, and action 3 is encourage measurement, and action 4 is design new and interdisciplinary approach to data collection. Action 5, monitor a lot of transformation activities, especially in terms of many data, many statistics, notably on the IoT, AI, and blockchain, and improve measurement of data and define and measure skills needed for digital transformation. And action 5 is measure trust in online environment. Without trust, you cannot do anything on the virtual or digital world. And action 9 is establish an impact assessment framework in order to get some experience and feedback to the existing policies and everything. And in Korean, we have a national agenda of digital government innovation, which is one part of the digital transformation. The reason why I just explained this government innovation is we have seen a lot of digital activities in Korea, the Digital New Deal and Korean New Deal and everything. So I just pick just digital government innovation in this session. For example, for digital innovation, we try to build data expressway. Without data expressway, we cannot share data very effectively and efficiently. So using data express or building data express, we can use the data in the safest way and effectively. And also we must innovate. We must continue to innovate our government, which is called digital government. In that process, we must narrow the gap or mitigate the gap in our society. So we must build an inclusive society, inclusive digital society. In order to do that, we must increase the citizens' digital capacity. We must focus on human resource development. Then the basic of digital transformation is summarized as follows. I mentioned many times in the previous module, the accelerating and widening and deepening in the post-pandemic. And this All these activities I explained in the previous module and other sessions, and also the observance you could make, the experience in your country can be summarized from the perspective of digital transformation as accelerating, widening, and deepening of digital transformation. Then this will accelerate the fourth industrial revolution. Before we had the COVID-19, many people in the government and businesses, we mentioned and talked about the fourth industrial revolution, which uses heavily the ICT and digital technologies and services in every aspect of our society. But suddenly we had COVID-19 and we just tried to focus on dealing with COVID-19 and we just set aside this fourth industrial revolution. But basically, the fourth industrial revolution is very important trend of this industrialization. So with the new trend of digitalization, which will new introduction of digital technologies in the process of COVID-19 will accelerate the fourth industrial revolution. Because summing up, the COVID crisis, simply put, has created an imperative for companies and countries to reconfigure their operations and opportunity transform themselves. You are too supposed to transform yourself, and I am supposed to transform myself. Then we need to look at some policy framework and strategy for digital transformation in the post-COVID era. And how can we accelerate and widen digital transformation? All the parties concerned, and businesses and government, families, schools, all the stakeholders must adjust themselves to the changes prompted by the COVID crisis. And in the process of COVID-19, revealed a lot of vulnerabilities. In other words, COVID pandemic, COVID crisis revealed lots of vulnerabilities in the long and complicated supply chains of many companies and industries, even national necessity like food, energy. And therefore, we need to think of just-in-time and just-in-case approach at the same time, meaning that we need more sophisticated risk management at the company level, at the national level as well. What should we do? Using the policy framework of strategy, we need to strengthen resilience in terms of business operations, in terms of industrial structure, and in terms of national operation, which will make digital transformation wider and deeper. So all the sectors of our society, every activities of our life will be affected by digital transformation. So digital transformation will get deeper and wider. That's why we call it deepening and widening of digital transformation. Digital transformation is terms as digitalization in many cases and servicification. And here, suggested by UN, digitalization is transforming manufacturing and service delivery worldwide. And the pandemic has highlighted the need for more resilient and flexible supply chains. In the early stage of the pandemic, we couldn't have enough masks available, even in advanced countries, because there was sharp demand, sharp increase in demand for masks. And there was a disruption in supply chain. In the early stage of COVID pandemic, we couldn't even have enough masks. And as time goes by, we have some experience of shortage of vaccine. I was wondering if your country has some problems with vaccine or vaccination, but still a lot of sector or lots of countries will likely to have some shortage of vaccine. And we must cooperate to provide enough vaccine for many people around the world. And also we must improve the supply chain in vaccine and other medical materials. And digitalization and sophistication are redefining competitive advantages here. By sophistication, we mean the increased use and production and export of services in other sectors. And according to Wiki Dictionary, the transformation or encapsulation of existing process or system into one or more discrete services. That is called sophistication. So, as UN suggested, we'll experience accelerating, widening, and deepening of digital transformation as a phenomenon of digitalization and sophistication. What about in your country? Do you have enough sophistication or digitalization? And are you ready for digital transformation in your country? We must get ready for digital transformation, and we can take some lessons from other countries if necessary. And also, we have a global digital divide among countries, so we must cooperate to narrow the gap between countries, between global regions, between regions, industries. And this was suggested by UN, and especially in many developing countries, it is especially vital that national innovation systems are strengthened to invigorate firms, schools, organizations, governments to observe and utilize knowledge and adjust to changing circumstances in the post-COVID era. But we must do more to build an inclusive digital future. Every time we mention digital transformation, we must develop one sector, we must transform our society, we must transform our government into the next generation, into the future. But we always, at the same time, think of inclusiveness of a society. In this case, on the global level, we must do more to build an inclusive digital future. So, when we talk about digital transformation within one country, we must think of inclusiveness of a society, even one country. When we try to build a digital organization, we must think of inclusiveness of organization at the organization level and the national level. Also, at the global level, we also must think of inclusiveness of society, which is dubbed inclusive digital future. So we must cooperate with each other very aggressively early on. So I will introduce policy framework for digital transformation suggested by OECD. You don't have to follow these approaches. You can modify these framework or approaches according to your situation, depending on the situation and needs of your country. So this is a simply integrated policy framework suggested by OECD. So for example, it just consists of market openness and trust and society and access, use, innovation, jobs. What those mean is when you think about policy of digital transformation, you must think about element of this access issue and use issue, innovation issue, jobs issue, and social issue, and trust issue, and market openness issue. That's the basic reference framework you can refer to. So you don't have to follow as it is. You can modify it. And also another principles suggested by World Economic Forum, which is, I guess, suitable for most advanced, developed countries, but we can just follow some lessons and takeaways from this model. And you don't have to follow this strategy as literally as it is. You can modify, and you can sometimes throw away some policies which is not suitable to your country. So I will just provide the core principles for successful strategy of digital transformation. These are the elements of successful strategy. So you can refer to this one. I will not go into deep very well. And let's move to education, because education is a very important part of a society for right now, as of now. In many countries, children, especially in poor income children, are experiencing disruption in education. So we must pay more attention to digital transformation education. And these requires element from infrastructure to competencies. In many areas, in many countries, children don't have infrastructures to get access to education or studying. So from down infrastructure to competencies, we must take care of all these elements for education in terms of digital transformation. And digital transformation education also requires lots of different elements in terms of devices and in tools and LMS, learning management system, and competencies, not only of students, but of teachers and the ministry concerned. Therefore, there are challenges in online learning in many countries because only the children who are only the infrastructure, who are only the content, they cannot provide suitable education opportunities. All the elements of education, they can, in cooperation with many parties concerned, they can provide adequate education opportunities. Especially most of us teachers and students should have digital competency to take advantage of online learning. At the earliest stage of pandemic, in many education institutions, in many schools, teachers and professors, students, they are not used to the online education, online studying. So they have difficulty teaching students remotely. Therefore, in many countries, in many schools, in many governments, they must promote the infrastructures and contents and the ability of teachers and devices, ability of students. They must promote consistently and simultaneously. Otherwise, the effect of education will be very poor. Now, in education sector, we must keep resilience. Without any physical in-person classroom, students and teachers, they should be able to contact each other. They should be able to communicate each other. That's the basic of resilience in education. That's why we need lots of infrastructures, devices, and contents communities. I don't have to go over again over here. All the recommendations by UNESCO is, in the first place, we need infrastructure. And we need students who are capable of dealing with devices and who have access to infrastructures. And also, we must stress the importance of teachers' readiness for equitable and inclusive learning. For example, in remote area, they have poor infrastructures, and there is more likelihood that the teachers don't have enough capacities to teach online, as opposed to the schools in urban developed areas. So the government and education ministry should take a balance between rural and remote areas and urban developed areas in terms of teachers' readiness for equitable and inclusive learning. You must keep in mind, this is a very important factor in education. So in terms of digital divide and connectivity, I mentioned many times, you must secure infrastructures, you must secure resources, you must secure devices so that everybody, regardless they are in remote area, in rural area, or in urban area, everybody is supposed to get access to infrastructure, and everybody is supposed to enjoy the potential of digital distance learning. And there are lots of hybrid approach, not only the high-tech digital approach. So when we talk about this digital transformation in education, as I mentioned in the previous module, we don't have to confine ourselves in high-tech technology. We can make use of traditional low-tech infrastructures and devices in combination with high-tech digital technologies. Okay? That's very important part of this digital transformation in education. Now move on to the healthcare system in the post-COVID era. I don't like to mention this one again. The key areas of digital government initiatives and healthcare system in response to COVID-19 suggested by UNDESA and DESA is as follows. Information sharing is very important, and electronic e-participation is very important, and e-health also is very important. You must keep in mind when you formulate your digital transformation. Over here, of course, e-commerce and e-business is an essential part of this digital transformation, and it should be an essential part of government initiatives. And social distance and tracking and remote working and remote learning, they are essential part of this one. And to do this, you must have a digital policy, which is suggested in the previous sector. And you must have a digital framework and integrated common framework for digital transformation. And also, you need a partnerships. You don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to do it for yourself. Sometimes you can cooperate with many organizations, many stakeholders within your country or with foreign countries. For example, if you need some help from other countries, other organizations, you can get help from other countries. You can cooperate with other government, for example, Korean government. You can cooperate with other organizations like NIA in Korea, which is very specialized in digital stuff, digital policy, and digital project. So you can find a way to cooperate many parties concerned. So you can just have lots of resources around the world. You don't have to confine yourself within your country. Now the government must have a priority scheme, as I introduced in New Zealand cases. So you must have a priorities for renewal of healthcare system as we experience during COVID-19. So I won't go into very detail because everybody knows, and I explained many times, and I'm sure you are familiar with this subject and issues. And everybody knows digital healthcare system will be innovated, whether or not you like it. So the experience of this COVID-19 will make you innovate yourself. Otherwise, healthcare system will not be working in the future. So digital legacy of COVID-19 needs to be durable, resilient, right? Otherwise, it's useless. So I simply explained the digital transformation here, and I introduced some cases in healthcare system and education because we'd like to express the importance of education and continuity of education here. But we can apply this digital transformation in many other aspects of our society to our lives here. So we must know the importance of digital transformation by asking, what is digital transformation? And we went over the definition of digital transformation suggested by many organizations and by many people here. Then next question is, what issues should the digital transformation take on in the post-COVID-19 era? And it'll accelerate, widen, and deepen digital transformation. And so we must take urgent actions for future digital transformation, for effective and efficient digital transformation. We must act right now. And what kind of lessons can we learn from here? ICT and digital technologies and services have become a necessity. It is a necessity, and this pandemic has become, whether you like it or not, become a catalyst for digital transformation. So, as a result, digital transformation will accelerate, widen, and deepen. I'd like you to keep in mind the necessity of digital transformation here. It's time to wrap it up now. Thank you for your patience, effort, and time. See you later. Thank you again.